The sputtering of the engine as Alex tried to pick up speed made his motorbike judder, and he let out a terse curse as he eased back on the power to bring the vehicle to a stop at the side of the road. He waited a few seconds before increasing the revs, and frowned when there was no hint of the problem he just encountered. "Fucking bike," he muttered as he cut the engine and got off. The impulse to lash out with a kick reared up in his mind, but he knew he wasn't going to do it. He'd worked almost every night after college for the last year or so to save the money for the motorbike. Finally, getting the amount he needed to buy it seemed like a landmark achievement, and being handed the key the week before was one of the best moments of his life. "Yeah, great," he muttered, and a sigh came out as he stared at the vehicle. The freedom of a first drive into the countryside around his hometown had made all the sacrifice of saving the money worthwhile. The roar of the engine and the wind whipping past him was a long-held dream coming true. But it was quickly turning a little sour. The first time he noticed the fault was 3 days after he bought the bike, and there had been no missing the juddering of the engine when he tried to apply the power. His first instinct was that it might have been dirt in the fuel, but he'd filled up the tank a few times since he noticed the problem, and things didn't seem to be getting any better. He'd searched the internet to see if he could find a solution, but the few things he tried made no difference. In truth, his knowledge of the inner workings of a motorbike engine was limited, and he suspected he wouldn't be able to fix what was wrong. The bumpy ride he just experienced was the worst yet, and he tightened his lips together as he stood at the side of the road. It was getting to the point where he needed to get professional help, which meant taking the bike to a garage to have it checked over. The problem was that he'd put all his money into buying the motorbike, and there was nothing left in his bank account. That meant paying for any repairs was impossible for the moment. He eventually got back on the bike and fired up the engine. Building the revs while at a standstill again seemed to work fine, but the fault reared its ugly head as soon as he tried to get up some speed. "Shit!" Alex cursed under his breath. The only choice was to roll along at a slow pace, and the narrow street he was on meant he held up the traffic. There was an embarrassment to the blare of horns from vehicles that squeezed past, but he didn't want to risk doing the bike any permanent damage. Darkness began to descend as he headed in the direction of home, but it didn't obscure the sign for motorbike repairs that caught his attention, and he saw he was coming up on a garage. He turned into it and came to a stop on the forecourt. The lights were on in the building, but he couldn't see anyone inside it, and he wondered if it was actually open. Dropping the kickstand of his bike, he got off to walk inside. "Hello?" he let out, but there was no response. He walked further inside, but there was no sign of anyone, and he eventually decided to leave. The sound of a door opening came to him when he got to his bike, and he turned to see a man coming from the back room in the place. It made him walk back into the garage. "What can I do for you?" the man asked. Alex hesitated as he stared. The garage owner was probably in his late 40s, and his outfit of oil-stained jeans, black t-shirt, and leather waistcoat made it clear he was a biker. Gray locks hung down to shoulder level from under a red bandana, with the man's mustache and stubble matching the color of his hair. My bike," Alex let out, and pointed a thumb over his shoulder in the direction of his motorbike. "Can't do much with it out there," the man said as he rubbed his hands on a greasy rag. "You'll need to bring it in here." "Before we start, I need to tell you I don't have any money at the moment," Alex said. "I'm having problems with my bike and really just wanted to find out if it was anything serious." The man threw the rag down on a chair as he moved forward. "This isn't a fucking charity shop, son." "Yeah, I understand that," Alex replied. "And I'm not trying to sell you a sob story here. But I worked hard over the last 12 or 13 months to get the money I needed, and blew every last penny of it buying the bike last week, so..." He held out his hands to the side and shrugged, but saw the unsympathetic expression on the man's face.